Today, we are talking about the first foundational attitude of non-judging. And I think it's first because it's probably the hardest to adopt, at least for many of us. So, those critical voices in our head, they pass judgment on everything in our experience hundreds, if not thousands of times a day. And an expert in the field, John Kabat-Zinn, says, learn to step back from your ideas, opinions, likes, and dislikes. This begins to create space to see things with greater clarity. And the running narrative in our head really is constantly judging what we like or what we don't like, what is good or what is bad. It's too cold, it's too hot, I don't like the rain, it's too windy, I don't like her dress, I don't like this person, or I don't like what that person says. This tastes too spicy, this tastes too bland. Well, does that sound familiar? We are constantly resisting the things that we don't want or like and passing judgment on them. So, and then of course there's the internal self-criticism that can be very harsh, saying things to ourselves like, you idiot, I can't believe you just said that. Now, you wouldn't speak to a friend like that, would you? And if you did, chances are they wouldn't be your friend for much longer. So really this narrative and the harsh self-talk is something that is foundational in being able to implement mindfulness in our lives, removing that harsh judgment and self-criticism or taming it. And unfortunately, we are wired with what's called the negativity bias, where we automatically seek out the negative in our experience. In primitive man, it was useful to judge everything because we needed it for survival purposes. But as a result, we quite often overlook the positive in an overall picture, whether it's in a relationship or just our experience in the moment. So now let's just take a look at the formal definition. Many of you have heard it, but it never hurts to go back to the basics. So this formal definition is one that we use here at the Krame Center. Mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. I'll say that one more time. Mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So there's three things here, right? We can break this down into three things. On purpose, that's the intention to be mindful. So we're being purposeful about being mindful. In the present moment, well, that's kind of self-evident, right? It's the focus on a particular point in time, the now, not the past, where we can tend to ruminate over something that happened or a conversation, replaying something over and over, or spending time in the future where we might worry about something that may or may not ever even happen. So, and the last thing that we'll be kind of dealing with today is non-judgmentally. And this is the attitude that we bring to our experience. So we begin to look at other ways, right? So rather than being judgmental, judging things harshly, how about adopting curiosity or bringing a beginner's mind, right? That's a kinder alternative to harsh judgment. And when we bring curiosity rather than judgment to our experience, we begin to take a more impartial stance. And that already has less reactivity in it, right? And then we begin to observe rather than judge. And this creates a little bit of distance from our experience and creates some space. And in that space, there's room for new perspectives, problem solving, creativity, and a less chaotic mind. One of my favorite quotes that really speaks to that space that I'm talking about is from Viktor Frankl. And he says, between stimulus and response is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and freedom, right? So I think that's a pretty powerful statement. And it is so true. In that space, we can choose, is our next moment going to be one of ease or one of stress? We can choose how we're going to respond. And really, so we can gain some clarity and see things as they actually are in each moment, rather than how an emotionally charged thought or a judgment might lead us to believe they are. So by observing our thoughts in this way, we can really see them as mental events, rather than identifying so closely with them or getting sucked into them and then being swept away in a sea of mental noise. So with that all said, let's move into our meditation. So finding a comfortable posture, and if it is comfortable for you, closing your eyes, and then just inviting a sense of arrival, right? So gently turning the gaze inward and maybe feeling the support of our own bodies and of the chair that we're sitting in, our feet on the floor, and maybe even feeling the support of the earth below us. And then just bringing our awareness into the body and having this sense of knowing that we are sitting here in this chair and knowing that we are fully present in our body in this moment. And as you're ready, turning your awareness now to the breath. And really allowing the breath just to come into your awareness, not striving to find it. Because in that striving, it's just another task that we have to master, right? So just gently resting your awareness on your breath as it enters your field of awareness. And just noticing how the breath is coming in and out of the body. And just following along and paying attention to the rhythm of your own breath cycle. Maybe beginning to notice where you might be feeling the breath in the body. Maybe you're feeling it more in the belly as the belly rises and falls with each in-breath and each out-breath. Or perhaps it's in the chest area as the rib cage expands with each in-breath. And then the lungs deflate on the out-breath. Or maybe for you, it's as the air enters the nostrils and feeling the coolness of the air on the in-breath and a slight warmth of the air passing over the upper lip on the out-breath. So just tuning in to where you might be feeling the breath, and then just being with the breath, allowing it to be your guide in this moment, to be your anchor in this moment. So serving as an anchor into your own body and also serving as an anchor into the present moment. Maybe noticing the qualities of the breath. Is it easy or is it a bit labored? And not needing to change it in any way, but just observing the breath. Maybe even noticing how one in-breath just naturally turns into an out-breath, and then the very next breath follows along without you having to do anything at all. Staying close to the breath and tuned in to your internal experience. And then, as you're ready, broadening the field of awareness to include all sensation in the body, including the breath. Feeling the breath sweeping through the entire body, maybe noticing some tension in certain parts of the body. Perhaps inviting a little bit of softening in those areas. Maybe it's the neck or the shoulders, the facial muscles, or the jaw. So often we clench our jaw and aren't even aware. So perhaps slackening the jaw in this moment, if it feels right, allowing the tongue just to fall away from the roof of the mouth. And taking a moment maybe to notice a shift in sensation. And maybe just scanning the forehead and inviting a softening there, because we so often furrow the brow without even realizing it as well. And now perhaps releasing the focus on the breath and broadening our focus and resting our awareness on thinking. So the process of thinking, not the substance. And if it's possible, just watch the rise and fall of thoughts as they come and go, just like the breath comes and goes. And here is an opportunity to perhaps notice a thought that, maybe it's a sticky thought, something that keeps coming back. A nagging thought of something on your to-do list. And that's all right, just holding some space when a thought like that arises and just watching So sometimes we can't necessarily let go. Perhaps it's just letting that thought be and see what happens. And as the mind wanders off, just noticing what it was that it wandered off to. And try to hold in our awareness the thought as an object. And giving it the space without getting pulled into the thought or running away with it or being swept away by it. So just observing whatever thoughts rise without any commentary or judgment. And then now, as you're ready, perhaps imagine resting your awareness on the edge of a riverbank and the stream of water, our thoughts flowing down the river past us. So just imagine sitting on the edge of that riverbank with water flowing by, our thoughts flowing by. Sometimes the river flows gently like a babbling brook or a stream, and there's more spaciousness between the thoughts. But then, of course, other times, the river flows rapidly, churning and frothing, raging with thoughts. But simply watching the thoughts passing by, flowing down the stream, and just noticing the quality. Is it flowing more softly? Or is it a little bit of a more agitated flow? So just being the observer, not jumping into that river and getting bounced from side to side of the riverbank, but being the witness to the experience. And then as your own thoughts arise, bringing awareness to them in a way that, again, is about the process of the rise and the fall of the thoughts. And sometimes it's helpful to label them for what they are, whether it's planning, worrying, a to-do list, the next meal, a worrisome conversation, whatever it is. And if in that experience, or any time that thoughts are arising and there's a thought that insistently returns and keeps coming back and keeps popping up, that can be a good time to investigate. Bring a little curiosity to what's happening in the mind. And just noticing, is there an emotion that's attached to the thought? Where in my body am I feeling the thought? And when naming the emotion attached to the thought, maybe looking a little deeper than what first arises. If it's anger, below the anger, there could be fear. And below the fear, there could be sadness. So in these moments of investigation, don't push it away. Allow some space and allow yourself the idea of welcoming what's arising with some kindness and self-compassion, and without any harsh, critical self-talk. And this idea of investigating and allowing some space and holding in our awareness the thoughts that we have, allow us to be with them without identifying with them. Because in many cases, they may not even be true. And this is really a way we can begin to change our relationship to our thoughts and recognize that those thoughts and judgments, they aren't me, right? And in that recognition, it removes their power. Because when we change how we relate to things, the things we relate to change. Whether it is our emotions, thoughts, physical sensations, pain, and even the people in our lives. And so instead of that default mode of reacting in a habitual way and releasing some of those judgments, we're creating space to the experience. And by relating to it differently, well, this is how we can begin to work with our thoughts. And now just returning our awareness to the breath. And following along with the breath. For these next few moments of silence. And in this theme of back to basics, we will end with one of the first poems we are exposed to in the MBSR course, and I realize not everyone has taken that course, but you may have heard this poem by Rumi, The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes. And then as you're ready, just bringing your awareness back to the space that you're in.